Hi class, my presentation today is going to be on social welfare, adolescence, and the transition into adulthood. While I think our book did an excellent job on the child welfare chapter, I do think it lacks some essential information regarding adolescence, and it really has no information about young adults and going into some of the issues that they may face. I wanted to include a quote by NASW and their standards for the practice of social work with adolescents, which states, "The many social problems that face our youth have increased the complexity of helping them cope." So today what I wanted to do was cover some of the main problems that plague young adults and also talk about some of the services which may have been mentioned in our book. However, I just wanted to focus more so on some of the problems that young adults face and why it plays into social welfare. Because the transition into adulthood is a very trying time to begin with, and these additional problems can impact not only the person but a lot of times society. These are just some of the issues adolescents and young adults face. There's plenty more, but I wanted to touch on, in what my opinion are the big ones. And those are drugs and alcohol abuse, violence, pregnancy, poverty and financial stress, and various types of mental illness. Drugs and alcohol abuse seems to be the biggest one. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, abuse of prescription drugs is highest among adults ages 18 to 25 in 2010. And this is important because it also states that youth who abuse prescription medications are also more likely to report use of other drugs. So oftentimes prescription pills are not the only drug of choice for the person, and these can lead to addiction and many other problems. The biggest problem, in my opinion, is the brain not being fully developed. There are many studies that have taken place over the past few decades as to when the brain fully develops, and the latest research says around age 25 is when a person's brain stops developing. However, the use of these drugs may have a different effect on adolescents and young adults than it may in older people. According to the U.S. National Library of Medicine, the brains of young people may be more susceptible to drug abuse and addiction than adult brains. Most commonly used drugs by 12th graders, this is typically 17 to 19-year-olds, are alcohol, marijuana, and prescription pills. All of these things are addictive. Violence. Though homicide is the second leading cause of death in the U.S. for adolescents and young adults, this study was from ages 10 to 24, non-fatal violent crimes are much more common than homicide. The leading cause of death, I wanted to add, was motor vehicle accidents. So homicide's the next one, but as you can see, this is a study from 1994 and 2004. And it's a comparison of the violent crime victimization rates by type between those 10 years. So as you can see, the dark green represents 1994 and the light green represents 2004. So probably the most noticeable thing is that there was a sharp decrease in a lot of these categories for the violent crimes. However, there's still large numbers. These crimes include simple assault, aggravated assault, robbery, rape, sexual assault, and homicide, and these are all reported cases. So there often are cases that do go unreported. Pregnancy. I feel like we tend to focus on teenage pregnancy, but a recent study found that while teenage pregnancy is down from previous years, approximately 54% of unwanted pregnancies occur to women in their 20s. And 32% of these women are among ages 20 to 24. So that kind of shocked me simply because I really think it's our nature to just focus on teenage pregnancy. But in reality, a lot of these unwanted pregnancies are happening to women in their early mid-20s, and sometimes these women just do not have all the resources, to provide the full costs and things like that for a family. which kind of ties into my next point, which is poverty and financial stress. In 2008, there were 35.2 million young adults, of whom 15.5 million were from families living at, near, or below the poverty level. So definitely not majority, but still a large number. 60% of these young adults were still pursuing a post-secondary degree, which I found very interesting. And the statistic that I wanted to include in that and the quote is, although encouraging, this statistic combines three distinct groups of low-income young adults: those who were enrolled in post-secondary education, those who had been enrolled in post-secondary education at some earlier point but had not attained a degree, and those who had earned a post-secondary credential but were still considered poor. The biggest thing that sticks out to me in that quote is number 3. And I found it really discouraging that there are people with college degrees that are still poor. Sometimes maybe it's because they can't find a job. Sometimes it's because they have a job, but it just doesn't pay enough. Maybe they're not in the particular field that they expected to be, and financial stress is just too much on them. And, as a college student myself, we're all college students, I hope that you would find the statistic discouraging as well, just because it is really sad that we go to college to better our lives and make a difference for ourselves and our families, but sometimes it just simply doesn't always work. Mental illness. Mental illness was one I touched on in my last video, but I just wanted to emphasize again, a lot of mental illnesses are not diagnosed until someone is in their young adult lives. And this is because it's really hard to diagnose a child with disorders such as bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, just because the brain is not fully developed. In 2009, the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, Mental Health Findings, revealed that serious thoughts of suicide were highest among young adults ages 18 to 25. So these people may, in addition, suffer from severe depression, which is considered a mental illness. Mental illness as a whole occurred most in those aged 18 to 25. And I like to think that it goes back to my original point. There's so much going on in young adults' lives, and sometimes it may seem like too much and really take a toll on a person's mental health. Here are some of the social welfare services available. Like I said, we've touched on many of these in the book. However, these are geared towards young adults in a lot of cases. For pregnancy, there's a Pregnant Women Assistance Program, TAMF, State Family Assistance, and Supplemental Security Income. One thing I really wanted to touch on was that there's other options that aren't always aid, and sometimes these can be the best options. We need to train people on warning signs. Families, be on the lookout for certain types of characteristics that might show that your son or daughter has a drug problem. Intervention, including crisis intervention, is huge. We need to also provide for these families information on referral, show them that there are many financial resources available for different kinds of treatment, and legal assistance is also available. Case management and counseling are also two options that we can provide for people suffering from different problems that I've discussed. And here are all of my sources. Sorry, that last slide was not meant to be there. But these are some great resources if you want to read more information about these studies, on these statistics, and they also provide other resources for the services. So I highly suggest, if you can go to any of these links, to do so. So thank you very much. I apologize if there was some noise. I am recording in the CPA building, so some music going on, some talking going on, but I hope you enjoyed.